Wow, that energy. My God. So energetic. It's Monday, people. Everybody wake up.
Let's go.
Hey, guys.
Wow, Eric, not ready for the energy, man. Not ready for the energy. What's going on? Is it a case of the Mondays?
Me specifically?
Yeah, you specifically.
Oh, I've got a big old case of the Mondays, bro. Let's go.
I only bring it up because if you notice, Harrison and Vogt brought lots of flair to the intro, but you did the bare minimum amount of flair.
I was just, every now and again, I like to take a step back and let others lead the way in the flair department.
Is that what you've been doing for the last 2 years?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Okay. We're excited today, guys. We have a jam-packed show today. Like, honestly, we were going through the rundown and it's like, oh wow, we're doing this all in 1 hour, and the answer is maybe. We're gonna try to fit it all in.
We might go short. We might just
let's see if we can get it down to a tight 20.
You guys always make fun of me for that, but today is not one of those days. We've got to talk about the Olympics. Team USA, what a debut, huh? Wow, inspiring. We've got Nigeria, Caleb Agata, not exactly taking over the Olympic Village just yet. We've got Facu.
Not yet.
We've got Valtko. We've got a lot to talk about there. We also want to talk about the top of this draft. Very interesting players at the top of the draft. Is this a great draft? I know it doesn't necessarily pertain to Denver directly, but it always pertains. So these guys coming in going to be impact players 2 or 3 years down the line. And so we got all that. Introduce the panel really, really quickly. Up here in the top right, the man with the wind in his hair, Harrison Wynn.
Man, my biggest takeaway from Slovenia, Argentina, Vlatko has a bag all of a sudden. I know we'll talk about this, but the guy has a bag.
Follow-up question: is the NBA the worst basketball league out there? We'll discuss. Is everyone else better at basketball than us? I'm excited to be here, guys. I got my Rudo shirt on, my hat on. I'm a company man today. Let's go DNVR.
Hell yeah. And then the guy who's already energy picking up. He's already got Tuesday energy on a Monday. It's picking up already as the show goes on. It's D-Line.
I'm going to revert back. That was false Tuesday energy. I'm sorry. Like you made me feel so bad that I had to prop it up, but I just don't have enough.
You can't fake it, man. You
can't fake non-Monday energy. I'm in it to win it. I can lose it. I don't know. Let's find out.
It is draft weekend. First thing I want to say is that, we do the draft big over at DNVR, and I think we do it great. Come down to the DNVR bar on Thursday. You turn it on. You've got the television set there. You've got you got Kendrick Perkins explaining all like the most annoying points possible. Like, does Denver need a center? Like, oh, get out of here, Kendrick Perkins. You don't want that. Instead, you have the DNVR Nuggets podcast live for the entirety of the draft. It's going to be like 5 hours. It's a marathon, all hands on deck here at DNVR. And it's going to be a lot of fun. You can sit at home and watch it on your TV. I don't know if you know this, Vogt, but YouTube can show up on your smart TV, so you can just get it there.
I've learned this over the last couple of years. Yeah,
I'm teaching the kids all about
I didn't know, but thanks, boss.
So what do you like print it out and then you like tape it on the TV?
That's a great question. I had the same question myself, but no. Your smart TV, you play YouTube on there, or you can pull it up on your laptop. You can pull it up on your phone, whatever you want to do. Or best option yet, guys, come down to the DNVR bar because we're going to have it. I am told we were going to have it on TV, so you can see it anywhere you're sitting. We'll also have like the ESPN broadcast, no sound on that one, of course, but at least you can look at Kendrick Perkins talking. And then who knows, maybe we'll have some Olympics on as well. It'd be a really good time. We got raffles, we got giveaways, and that is, of course, Thursday, starting right around 6 o'clock. I think 5:45 will be when we officially start.
One more wrinkle to the tease, Adam. If you come down to the bar, you will have a chance to be on this show. We are going to interact with the fans for some of these segments, so. It's definitely this will be the best one we've done, as far as draft coverage, and we really want you guys in the building. So YouTube is great, but if you're in the area, come on down. Don't miss this.
No, absolutely. So it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. We also are going to have some content behind the paywall for DNVR members coming up the rest of this week. We've been putting in that work over the weekend and really for the last couple of weeks. That'll be out here probably starting tomorrow. But let's start with the news of the day for the Nuggets, and that is that they brought in a couple interesting players today for some workouts, Harrison. Why don't you walk us through both who these guys are and what the players had to say about their workouts today?
Yeah, Nuggets brought in a couple interesting guys today. 6 of them in total. Most look like they'll be maybe second-round picks, but potentially also some undrafted summer league guys to take to keep an eye on. The one potential first round guy they brought in who's getting some late first round buzz, JT Thor. First off, another amazing name, a theme we've hit on a lot during the draft so far. An all-time name draft.
Dude, maybe number one name draft.
Grimes, Deuce, Thor, who
Bones?
Bones? Oh my God, dude. If we don't get one of those top name prospects, I don't know what to do.
By the way, I found out that Ayo DeSumo, Ayo actually means joy.
Oh,
great name. Another great name,
man.
Love it. Yeah, so JT Thor, he's 18 years old. He's very, very young. He just spent 1 year at Auburn. He's one of those guys who should have been going to college this coming season, but reclassified. So he's really young for his age. 6'10" with a 7'3" wingspan. He compared his game today to Kevin Durant, Michael Porter Jr., and Jeremy Grant. And honestly, looking at the tape, you can see why he probably thinks that. He's like a 6'10" guy who plays on the perimeter. He's got a really good looking jumper, although it didn't go in at Auburn, shot less than 30% from three. His defensive stuff is pretty impressive, averaged 1.4 blocks per game. Seems like he's got some ability as a weak side defender. So he's an interesting guy, late first, early second, probably. And he was the headliner of the Nuggets workout today.
Well, I have a question for you guys. Is Jeremy Grant, how does he belong in that trio? I'm really interested by JT Thor. I know some people in the Nuggets kind of draft hive community really like him. Although it's really worth pointing out that this is one of those guys, as we do so often in the draft, where you're really just talking about tools and upside. Like, as you pointed out, Harrison, before we started recording, for a guy with all this sort of attention and momentum, you look at his numbers, didn't actually play that well in college. Granted, still young. But so, yeah, this is a long-term upside move, but a guy that's got physical tools, a guy that's can put the ball on the floor, can make some shots, some defensive range. I mean, it's an enticing prospect, but I think in the raw camp.
Yeah, that is the funniest part about this entire part of the year is you talk about so many guys and you're like, the one caveat is that he was awful.
Right.
But
yeah,
it's so true, man.
Yeah. You watch the highlight and you're like, wait, this guy's really good. And then you look at the box score. He averaged 9 points a game last year.
He did have a bad year, and he only played 1 year, and it was bad. But yeah, that's a lot of it's like
the thing about NBA, especially with the way it works right now, where freshmen are so, you want the younger the better, in terms of they have more upside or whatever, is a lot of those guys that are your most highest upside, it's the physical tools. That's what you want. Oh, look at the measurables. Look how long he is. And he has a foundation, but not a proven thing. And, this year in particular, there are a lot of, especially in that 26 zone, there's a lot of guys that you look at that, and it's so funny, but you're like, hey, he's way more polished, but will so-and-so be as polished given 2 or 3 more years? So JT, though, I totally see, even though I haven't gotten my full scout on him, I totally get the things that make people attracted to him, because it really is all theoretical.
Yeah. And he's just an NBA type of athlete. He's 6'10". He can really move. He's pretty quick, twitchy. So he's got the athleticism. He's got the frame, 6'9" with a 7'3" wingspan. So he'll have a place in the NBA. It's funny, just with this draft, there's all these guys that keep getting mocked to Denver. Josh Primo's been getting mocked to Denver a lot. JT Thor probably fits into this category. The Nuggets always go for, or over the past couple of drafts, have really gone for guys who are really young with a lot of upside. But I wonder this year if they want a guy who can, maybe just play a little bit sooner than a Josh Primo. Those guys totally fit that classic Nuggets draft pick. But I feel like they might want a guy like that, but that can maybe just get on the court a little sooner than, a year and a half from now.
I have to think that's at least part of the calculus here. Who else was he? So JT Thor headlines this. Who was the other guy?
The other guy that I'm interested in is Scotty Lewis, who's going to go second round or might go undrafted. He's probably a guy to keep an eye on if the Nuggets can pick him up for summer league on a 2-way contract. Scotty Lewis, man, I don't know if you guys remember on like the first Behind the Paywall podcast, I think it was me, D-Line, and Vogt, but I kind of said he gave me some RJ Hampton vibes because he's an incredible athlete. He's like 6'5" with a big wingspan. He's a much better defender than RJ Hampton was when he came out of school. He's older too. He's 21, so a couple years older than Hampton was. But really just raw offensively. He's just like really athletic, a 2-guard, got that same type of frame and athleticism as RJ Hampton does. And he's an A+ interview also. I posted a clip from his interview today. He's a great interview. So I feel like he's going to win a lot of people over with that. But he is another guy that just has like the athleticism, the tools, the defense also. He's a guy Michael Malone would love for what he does defensively. Yeah, so check him out. I mean, you can check out his highlight and you'll know what I'm talking about. A very watchable YouTube highlight clip from Scotty Lewis.
There you go.
But his meal ticket to the NBA win, that's defense?
Well, it's probably it's probably if he can develop anything really on the offensive end. Like that's probably his meal ticket because he did not shoot it from 3 in college. He's a former 5-star recruit and just kind of got lost in the shuffle at Florida. So there's a lot more to his game, I think, but offensively, he's really just kind of like a play finisher right now, a guy who can cut and dunk and get out in transition. He doesn't really have a 3-point shot, or at least he didn't show one in college. Maybe he's gotten better and worked on it since, but he's got to become better offensively, but defensively, he's really, really intriguing.
One of the things that's funny, this is not necessarily maybe it applies to these guys, I don't know, but in doing prep over the weekend for all of the draft, like trying to get all 60 guys or whatever, and reading some of the profiles that have been done on their like high school careers and this or that, the thing that jumps out to me so much in this year's draft, and maybe it's true of every draft, is how much they come from high profile families. I mean, you look at like Jalen Suggs, cousin is Terrell Suggs, other cousin is Eddie Jones. Like every single person in his family is a 5-sport Mr. Minnesota player. Like, and it wasn't just him. Cade Cunningham, same thing, had a dad. All of these guys have incredible, I don't want to say pedigree, that sounds weird, but they come from backgrounds and have family members that were also not just elite athletes, but also like professional quality, and they train professionally. So it pops up. You go through the top 10 picks, like 8 of them have a father or mother or both who were either professional or elite college athletes.
Is this a thing like what's happened with U.S. soccer, where it's just like expensive to get in? Like the AAU circuits are such that like it is becoming a rich person's sport, and then it actually like cuts down on the number of people that are playing.
I think there is probably something to this. Is actually a good question. I'd be really interested to hear, but I think it has more to do with, when I grew up training, back in 1998, I'm entering high school, right? You had like these workouts with the guys that have been doing workouts for 20 years, the same little pool of people. And there were good ones and bad ones or what have you. But it was like, you're kind of going through the same process. I feel like the last 20 years and really the last 10 years, this factory of now you have trainers that are shooting coaches, and now you've got guys that are working at, strength and conditioning. And so I think my hunch is if you have parents that have gone through the system and done the they've actually done the meal prepping and the all of this different stuff, they've actually been professional athletes or at least elite college ones. Now they know how to train their kids, and they have the network of people that's like, hey, we used to play together, I know you have that academy, I'm going to send my son there. And it it becomes this pipeline where you and even they talk about this in some of the profiles of some of the players where they're like, he trained with so and so, he went to do this and that, and you're like, wow, yeah, he was groomed since he was 8 to be a professional basketball player.
Yeah.
It does seem like there's go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's fascinating to see that side of the coin with a lot of the guys at the top of the draft. And then you've got guys like Bones Highland, who just is this street ball legend from Delaware and is just on the exact opposite side of the spectrum from that.
Right. You definitely get a wide mix, but I'm just, as I go through this, especially the lottery, I'm just like, oh, another child of a professional athlete and Olympic mother. And now they're like this perfect combination. And is it Suggs that was Mr. Minnesota basketball and football? I think he was. Like, you just think like, imagine being the best in a very populated state in the two main sports.
To think of the damage that these cardboard beds are doing at the Olympics. They're preventing future top draft picks from being coming into the world.
My God,
that would be hilarious if you have like we start seeing all these kids that were like, actually the Swedish swimmer, and you're like, wow, where did this happen? That'd be pretty incredible. The other piece of news that dropped, is there anything else from these workouts today, Harrison, that you wanted to share, or from the interviews?
No, that's all I got from those two. But yeah, Scotty Lewis, he's gonna win people over in the interview process for sure.
That's all I need.
Well, no, I would agree with you, except for, who my all-time favorite pre-draft workout interview was?
Admiral Schofield.
No, well, he was great. You're right. Admiral Schofield was fantastic. But even worse, Justin Patton. Do you remember Justin Patton? How he talked about Jokic for forever, was just kept raving. Yeah, love Jokic's game. I'm like, dude, he's going to be good.
This is my guy.
He's never played. Like, I don't know if he played a single minute in the NBA. Maybe not. Moving on, the other big nugget to drop this weekend on the Nuggets was that it looks like Popeye Jones is going to join the Denver Nuggets coaching staff, filling Wes Unseld's seat. Popeye Jones, if you don't know, former basketball player, not necessarily like a great basketball player, did have a decent career.
He was a basketball player. That much can't be denied.
I don't really know what to say of this, Harrison. What was your first impression when you heard this news?
My first impression is that for a while now, the Nuggets have only had one former NBA player on their staff, and that's Ryan Bowen. Now they have two.
Wow.
And no, I mean, like, I think that's something. Like, I think having former NBA players on your staff is valuable. So that's something the Nuggets pick up with Popeye Jones. He's been an assistant for a while. These last several years, I think like over a decade now, after playing in the league for 11 years. He played 2 seasons for the Wizards when Tim Connelly was still in the DC front office. So there's a connection there. He, from what I gather, I hit up friend of the show, Caitlin Cooper, because Popeye Jones was an assistant in Indiana for a while. From what I gather, he's primarily worked with big men. No surprise there. Like, that's who he was in the league. He worked with Miles Turner a lot in Indiana. He was in Philadelphia last year. I'm sure that's why they brought him in there. So he's probably big man focused. I'm curious to see what Denver does, like, with that defensive coordinator title. Who gets that next season? I don't know if he's a defensive guy. Maybe he is. I'm not sure yet. But that's my early read on him.
He also has an all-time NBA headshot. It's
does he? Do you want to bring it up?
I'm going to bring it up. It is remarkable. Let me see here. Let me share my screen.
I like that we got asked if in the War Room the DNVR draft show will be on. Absolutely, it will. Absolutely, there's no question.
At the very least, we'll Photoshop it to make it.
Yeah. So someone look. Unbelievable.
Okay, I'm comfortable where the show is going.
There's got to be a story behind that.
So I mean, you always wonder. There's a crop of names, right, that are circulated every, like the top assistants, or at least the guys that are being interviewed and sought after by a bunch of names. I wondered if this would be one of those early signs of what we've all sort of hoped to see from ownership, right, which is being willing to be very aggressive, spend a lot in the margins, because the Nuggets have the hard part down. It's about the margins now and getting over that final hump. And I wondered if that would entail like shelling out in a way they're not necessarily known for what's considered a top or elite assistant. That said, I don't want to say that Popeye Jones isn't one. I could not have any less insight into what coaching style is like, how players respond to him. So I don't know much about Popeye, but my first thought was, okay, this wasn't one of those names that's been in the interview process for a couple of years now.
Yeah. He also, he has ties to this area. I know he played for the Nuggets.
Don't say the name. Don't say Seth Jones. Please don't say Seth Jones.
Well, I mean, that's
why not? Of course.
His son, well, I mean, that was part of the talk. Like when the Avalanche ultimately ended up selecting Nathan McKinnon because they had the top pick. It was rumored that they were going to take Seth Jones, his son, who's a defenseman in the NHL, And the reason was because Joe Sakic had connection to Popeye Jones because he'd been in the area. I don't quite know the connection, but there's something there. So I wonder, I mean, there's obviously some connection to Ball Arena and the front office is there.
Yeah. You think this was a long-term ploy to get Seth Jones on the apps?
Seth Jones just got signed a huge contract.
Yeah, just signed an enormous contract with the Blackhawks. So that's not happening.
It's pretty funny. We just talked about how all of these NBA players coming in come from fathers and mothers who were professional athletes, and then here we have Popeye Jones. Kids play hockey. I think two of them, right, play hockey. So, what do you know? Go figure. Let's hit our first break though. On the other, because we have so much to get to, guys. We're kind of flying through this one all week. I think it's going to be a relatively busy week with news and notes, guys. We're in the draft week. We're in an exciting week. But on the other side, we are going to talk about Team USA. I can't wait to talk about this. I have some takes to get off about Team USA and about Olympic basketball in general, which has been very entertaining.
Yeah, guys, make sure to pick up some Mile High City Copper Lager this week from Breck Brew. Look, when you're sitting down to watch the draft on Thursday, maybe you're at the DNVR bar, come down to the DNVR bar, watch the show live. But if you're not, if you're taking in the draft at home and you've got us up on your TV, on YouTube, you can do that. Have a Mile High City Copper Lager in hand. Great for any occasion, as well as watching the draft. You can pick it up from your local liquor store. You can pick up the Mile High City Copper Lager in that Nuggets Skyline Blue can from the Breck Brew Farmhouse. Make sure to get your hands on some today. Also, at Strava Craft Coffee, DNVR listeners, you guys can get 25% off your first purchase when you use the code DNVR25. Of course, Strava Craft Coffee is packed with CBD, which can help relieve long-term migraines, back pain, arthritis, IBS.
Yeah.
Tons of other aches and pains that you might have. Shouts to IBS, man. You can also get a Strava Craft Coffee subscription, get your coffee delivered to your doorstep every 2, 4, 6, or 8 weeks, whichever you prefer. If you're a returning Strava Craft Coffee customer, use the code DNVR20 for 20% off at StravaCraftCoffee.com. If you're a first-time customer, get 25% off with the code DNVR25 at checkout.
All right, awesome. Back here on the DNVR Nuggets podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Don't forget that promo code DNVR when you sign up. By the way, on Thursday, one of my favorite things we do on our draft show, almost right off the bat, we place a bunch of bets. The most fun thing to bet on is who's going to be drafted where.
Draft order. We all won that bet last year, thanks to Andre. We got the first, I think, 5 draft picks correct. And quickly, I looked it up. Jones, while he played for the Avalanche, for the Nuggets, approached Joe Sakic and asked them how to get his sons into playing hockey, and Sakic advised him to get into skating classes. There it is.
I would give the same advice. So
that's not that great of advice.
Me and Joe Sakic are right here.
Yep.
It's always like when you hear a billionaire, they're like, the thing that really turned it around is when I was in 3rd grade, my teacher said, work hard. And I took that to heart. And you're like, God, I thought you were going to see some great advice. All right, work hard. All right, yeah.
Do we want to talk about this trade that just broke?
What is the trade?
Not with the Nuggets. Per Woj, Memphis is finalizing a trade to send Jonas Valanciunas and the number 17th pick to New Orleans for Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, and the 10th and 40th pick.
What?
And a protected 2022 first-round pick. Wow.
So, man, this is a really interesting trade. My first thoughts on this is that if you're New Orleans, your 2 worst fits / players that were anchoring you down was number 1, Eric Bledsoe, who's just absolutely terrible, and Steven Adams, who didn't really fit. Now, Valanciunas, I don't think really fits alongside Zion either. I don't love that fit, so I don't quite know. Does Val? I'll look it up here as we're talking, but I'm wondering, does Valanciunas have less of a contract? Is that kind of the idea here?
Well, they had just signed Steven Adams to that extension when they traded for him.
So it is true. Valanciunas will be entering the final year of his deal. So so maybe that I don't think it makes, to me in my head, it doesn't make a lot of sense to start Zion and Val together. It's kind of weird, but maybe it just gets you out from one bad contract.
That might be it.
And you have to move back 7 place in the first round to do it.
I'm a little confused, guys, about the Memphis side of this. I thought Valanciunas was a really important part to what they did well offensively.
He was?
I know. I mean, yeah, I thought like that's not objectively the case, but I know defensively, like as far as archetype and stuff, is he the kind of modern big man you want defending in the playoffs? Like, how hard is he to keep on the floor? That said, I'm not sure how bringing Steven Adams back in mitigates any of that. So maybe there's someone they really love in that draft. I don't know, but I'm intrigued, if not confused, by the Memphis decision.
Steven Adams is a good player. He just makes a lot of money. And I think if you are Memphis, perhaps you look at this and say, like, they're at that stage in their sort of process that they can maybe afford it for a couple more years. Plus, he's not like I don't think he'll be an anchor on them. So maybe it just works that way. Plus, you get now a little bit better of an asset. So maybe I guess that's the thought process I have. And I don't actually hate it for either side. I really like it for New Orleans because if they are ever going to turn this around and actually start winning, like they have been in this process for too long that they need to start winning, and you cut your biggest anchors off. I feel like that works.
Yeah, it's definitely one of these trades. There's just so many pieces. You're like, it's so what? There's like, I don't.
It's pretty much they traded big centers for each other and
got rid of Eric Bledsoe one side of the other, and then a bunch of
Eric Bledsoe's like just so irrelevant at this point. It's like
poor Eric
crazy.
Bledsoe.
There's no way he plays, right? Does he play? I guess he has 2 more years on the deal.
I know.
Jeez,
Memphis play him.
Man, Memphis really committing to like the next couple years having some bag. This is weird.
Maybe he gets the Andre Iguodala treatment and just goes and chills in Miami for the next 2 years until they trade him.
He's got 2 years, man.
See you in 2 years.
I want the Andre Iguodala treatment.
Now this is a confusing one. I'll have to take more time to kind of digest this and really see what I like. Man, I almost feel like New Orleans and Memphis switched place, where Memphis was the not overachieving, but they were reaching their process was good, and New Orleans has just been like underachieving. I feel like I kind of switched them a little bit now. Now I'm like, oh, New Orleans, I expect we'll see what they do with Lonzo and how they handle this, but they cut their baggage, man. Maybe they could fly now.
The collective thought on the timeline is, gonna have to think about this one.
That's the best analysis for Davey. That really is.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got to keep it moving because we got too much going on. Guys, back to the Olympics here. I don't know if you guys watched. I've seen a bunch of people complaining about watching the Olympic, this or that. To me, it's been very straightforward, very easy. It hasn't been easy. I do. Yeah. Is that why? Yeah, because I'm an old
adult.
I'm an adult. So Team USA this weekend. Last week they do their friendlies. They go 1-2. They beat Argentina. They get smacked by Nigeria. They get smacked by who else did they? Australia. And you think like, okay, can they turn this on? I turn the corner. I don't think they can. I think they will be better. I think they will compete for a gold medal. I don't know that they are like by any means a team that I feel confidence in. I feel confidence against Japan and Iran, who they have to play next. Yeah. But once they get to an actual team, which they will in the elimination round, every single game to me feels like it's going to be somewhere around a coin flip. And I have to say, so they get beat by Italy. I think they closed the game on a 16-2 run. Italy did to take over that game down the stretch.
By France.
I'm sorry, France. And basketball is such a fourth quarter sport. And it's in particular a clutch time sport. You see it all the time where like 2 teams can play even. You go to like, okay, who are you really? It's time to find out. 16-2 that's not 16-10. That's not 8-12. That is an absolute, and you watched it and you go, wow, Team USA does not know who they are. They don't seem to trust each other or like have this. They can't get any stops. It was, I watched that. I could not be more unimpressed with Team USA in that game than I was. Honest to God, I don't think I could be more.
The shooting was atrocious also. Like they were getting open shots for the most part, but like they weren't even close. Like Kevin Durant scored 10 points in that entire game.
10
like, 10 points.
He was in foul trouble.
Yeah,
but he also couldn't. He also just couldn't deliver, man. And I know we're going to talk about Slovenia, but
couldn't deliver
because part of this you think this or that, but you go and watch Slovenia. Luka delivered every single time down the court. Not just delivered, but you're like, oh my God, this guy's in such control or whatever. Watching KD, in that game. I was so frustrated because I'm just like, dude, do you not know what to do? Like, just go score on these guys. He couldn't do it.
Not on these hoes.
That was a horrible game. Vogt, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, I missed it because I was camping. I have seen some highlights and replays. But first of all, man, there's just something I can't get past a couple of layers, which are motivation. Like Luka Doncic is probably more motivated to deliver right now than any player on Team USA. Especially if we're comparing him to Kevin Durant. I don't know. That's a guess, but I would imagine that's the case. The other thing is it's hard not to like, this roster is still in flux. Like it's like they're still finalizing it. And
Drew Holiday played a ton. If Drew Holiday wasn't in that game, they would have lost by 20 points.
Easily.
He was
Drew
playing
Holiday
harder.
was great.
Right. The guys from the finals were playing with more urgency and more left in the tank
Not
than anyone that's been
Book
there.
wasn't, and Middleton didn't even play. It was ridiculous.
So look, guys, to me, what it sort of looks like is a group that was put together really late, has not practiced a ton together, does not seem to want this very much, to be frank. And it's the rest of the world is catching up, man. The rest of the world is catching up.
I think I'm going to disagree with Vogt, but I want to hear Wynn's perspective, just a little on one little point. But I'm going to throw it to Wynn first.
The end of the game, the Team USA had like 6 open threes.
Wide open.
All of them would have put them up like a point with very little time remaining. But it was just so like symbolic of the state of NBA basketball almost. Because like, can somebody go to the rim? Can Kevin Durant just like go to the rim and like use his 7-foot frame against some guy from against Rudy Gobert or Vincent Poirier? Like, can somebody go to the rim? So these guys just hung out beyond the 3-point line for the entire game. It wasn't too surprising, to be honest. And also, Team USA, and this has kind of always been a thing with Team USA, until there's a defined pecking order, they just overpass like crazy. And they just need Kevin Durant to just assume the position as the best player on the team and like start running shit through him. Yeah. Because right now, like they're overpassing, they're too unselfish. They don't want to make each other mad. They don't want to step on each other's toes. They just got to center everything around Kevin Durant already.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it. Here's why I was going to disagree with Vogt, because I agree that this roster is not constructed the way, like, you know, where there's like, okay, you're the point guard and you're the shooting guard and you're this and you're the main scorer. It's not. There's a bunch of guys that love to like ISO, and then you've got a coach in Greg Popovich who we know loves to play the beautiful game. And even if they're not trying to play like, they're not trying to put in anything, in my opinion, that's like intricate or difficult, but they are clearly trying to develop a mind frame of, no one guy, we're all doing this. And I think there's something important about that. Like, look, I'm never going to sit here and question Popovich and say, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing here. In fact, I think that they need to establish some type of like trust and chemistry and ball movement. But I like what Harrison said about the FIBA game has been really interesting to watch, especially coming on the heels of what was one of the more annoying playoff runs, just to see like how much flopping was rewarded and how much the game in the NBA has become a pick and roll, almost exclusively league. Like everybody plays this one style. In FIBA, you could play zone. And with France, you've got Rudy Gobert in the middle of the zone. He just has a permanent rim protector, doesn't have to move.
No 3-second violations either. And
I always say in FIBA or in zone, like smart teams should be able to beat that. I wonder if the NBA, first of all, these guys don't want to listen to Pop. You've already heard some of the things coming out about KD has questioned Popovich's like, oh, he's trying to get us to do this. He needs to play this, that. Like, so annoying. But then also Popovich seems on the same way to not be able to like mold to the guys that he has and adjust this way. But more importantly, I wonder, we talked about the guys trying to do the rip throughs early on and that not working. Even Luka did a little shot fake, jump into a guy, no call. I love that this is happening. But I also wonder if it's more than just those rules. I wonder if it's even the NBA has become so simplified in a lot of ways. The Mike D'Antonification of the NBA has now made it that when you do change the rules just a little bit and you allow these, okay, now there's no defensive 3 seconds, now there's goaltending out there, whatever. All of a sudden, the house of cards of pick and roll basketball falls apart, and this team doesn't know what to do. They look like guys that had never played basketball before in the closing minutes of their, because they couldn't go to their bread and butter that they've been comfortable with for the last 5 years. They had to do anything else, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, piggybacking off of that, like it's not just the rules, but also the enforcement of them. You are allowed to and encouraged to play defense on the FIBA level. And
That's so great.
I think there's a level of shell shock here with Team USA. It's some of what you're talking about, right? Which is it's proving to be a lot harder than they expected to do that, the in-between game getting to the rim. And they're looking at this shorter 3-point line and thinking, this is our league, this is our game. We can just rain hellfire from here. But it's going to be an adjustment. And I think we're all in agreement here. Some of these games have been really fun to watch for these exact reasons, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the crazy thing is that the U.S. played like pretty good defense, particularly Drew Holiday. I mean, that was a really low-scoring game. Like they definitely did enough that they should have been able to take it. I was just so astonished at how inept they were at the end of they just could not shoot. Zach LaVine, brick. Kevin Durant, brick. Drew Holiday, completely wide open, brick. It was just like, dude, and that played out like 3 or 4 times in a row. It was like they couldn't get used to the basketball itself. Like the rim seemed softer. It was crazy.
But it was process. I think the results looked that way, but I think it was the process. And this is why you talked about the shots at the end. I'm not surprised the wide open shots missed. Could they have gone in? Of course. And in some of these games they will fall and Team USA is going to look awesome. But there's something about a good process makes shots easier. I've talked about this so much that it's not just the openness of a shot, it's the rhythm of it. And Team USA's rhythm is just so gross. It's just like, this is what I say when they don't know what to do. It's a zone. They don't know what to do against it. They just want to run a pick and roll. They want to do these types of things. But if you have to play like any type of other basketball, they just look so out of place. And it really has me thinking, there's so many rules in the NBA that have steered it towards this, where Curry and Lillard and these guys are making all these shots and everybody is so impressed by it that I think it's cool and it is skill and it's important, but it's funneled everything to being that one type. I saw somebody in here saying Denver broke Lillard, now he sucks or something like that. Oh, here it is. Nuggets broke Lillard. I'd love to believe that, but I do think there's something to what Lillard's 55-point game. Why was it 55 points? Well, because he kept jumping into defenders, getting the most ridiculous calls, but he just kept running that high pick and roll, and he made a bunch of hero shots. Was it great basketball? No, it was great shot making and foul drawing, but it was just one thing over and over and over again, and it didn't even win. My eyes are so opened right now to how limited the American style basketball game has gone, and more to the point, hearing the players start to complain about Popovich and this or that. The international players have learned a lot from American basketball over the last 30 years. They clearly study it. You hear all the foreign-born players, but they also have their own style. I mean, Jokic plays basketball unlike anyone else, even though he's stealing. You hear the Americans talk. They almost talk about the international players with disdain, like they don't have anything to learn from. It's like, look, is U.S. still the mecca of basketball? Absolutely. There's no question in my mind that it still is. But they almost talk about it as if, we have to play another style that's dumb. Like, no. You can learn from them too. They're lesser than you, sure, but you can learn a lot from them. They seem so not just reluctant, but disdain at the idea that maybe they have to play differently.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're right. I love it. I told you earlier, like I love it when hubris is punished. Like I love when people don't prepare for things and they end up being embarrassed by it. And like the U.S. basketball, I just love the idea that they think they can just show up and it's going to be business as usual. People are going to lay down and allow them to do whatever they want. And a lot of the guys that have been assembled for this team, like, are some of the more loathsome like personalities in the NBA. So just the notion that they're going to be ridiculed and like have to come back and be a meme if they ultimately end up performing like they have, it just like it fills me with joy. So we'll see what happens.
It's going to fall on Popovich though. I can see you can already see the like narratives being formed. I even hop on the timeline and see some of the Twitter analysts, not maybe the ESPN people, but the Twitter people that always are commenting on the game and high profile people, and you can already see it like, Popovich isn't doing that. And look. There is some of that. I do think that, as Vogt mentioned earlier, if it was understood that this is Kevin Durant's team and everybody else is a role player, I do think that it would probably create some clarity for that. And that's not really Popovich style, but maybe you could be flexible. But at the same time, Jokic won the MVP this year. Giannis won the finals MVP and dominated after winning 2 MVPs in the regular season himself. You got Luka dropping the second most points ever in an Olympic game. A record that's 50 years old. He got the second most. you look at that and you go, these international players have clearly learned, and now they're bringing all these different things. They're moving it forward where you have these American players that are so reluctant to, and it just drives me nuts. There is a turning of the tide in terms of you can either start to learn from others who you consider your inferiors, or you can just be stubborn, but you're going to get embarrassed. And I just, this Team USA team is so frustrating on all of those levels.
Well, hopefully this is a tipping point, and it gets to the point where the U.S. actually takes these international competitions seriously. They have teams that are actually play together more than 2 weeks before the
big part of it. I really think that's a big part.
You know what's going to happen? They're going to lose in the semis and get not even get on the medal stand. And then in 2024, the Redeem Team 2.0.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We go. Everybody's back. LeBron's back.
I don't know about
I just think that what goes into this stuff, there needs to be cohesion, right? In terms of the team building, the coaching, the plan of attack. And if there isn't, right, if this isn't, everyone's on the same page, they're taking this seriously, they're ready to play hard. It's not just stylistic. Again, like the NBA MVP from Serbia, Giannis, that dude right now, Luka coming in hot. Like, it's not just play style, it's also just talent. The rest of the world is in fact catching up. And so if the USA is just gonna, if there's not going to be cohesion on all those levels, and or they're just going to loaf around at times, it's not as easy to just press the wear better button than it once was.
I know. If we get to the point where players actually take pride in winning these competitions as opposed to it being like an obligation, it's like, all right, yeah, I'll play for Team USA. Like, if it got to the level of a World Cup for soccer where okay, and the way that the European nations all look at this, okay, now is the time where our nation gets to stack up. We get to really see where we are. And I would love that. I really hope it gets to the point. I hope that the old thinking gets retired and we start to usher in a new era of okay, this is more of a level playing field. Let's really go after this.
Did you, KD had a comment when he was in Golden State too, after they'd won one championship, where he said something all that ball movement is really cute, but once you get deep into the playoffs, then it's all about ISO basketball. Or I'm simplifying.
It's all about the real hoopers.
Yeah, about the real hoopers, and he had a point. The point wasn't that it is all one thing. It is that it is important to be great at so many different things because you never know what's going to be needed. You might need to win off of ISO. You might need to win off of ball movement. But to be great at all that stuff, that's the key of basketball, being unsolvable. I don't think that was his point. He was more saying my style is better than Steve Kerr's style, better than the Warriors, and they need me to do my thing, not me to do their thing. It was so annoying. And I see the same sort of mentality here, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. It reminds me of, you think about any great band that's transcended decades, whether it was Bob Dylan, whether it was the Beatles, Kanye, whatever.
Band, Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan and the band, whatever you want to say. But any great musician, their music evolves with time, right? They're constant, and they're constantly pulling from different things. You hear a certain musician, and there's certain musicians that really master an era. I got the hairband sound, and I just gonna play that for the next 30 years, and it's cool. But then you got the ones that really transcend that. Where did you learn this from? We were doing the rock, but then I got this influence from Indian music and I pulled that in, or that pulled this in. You're just constantly pulling from different things to create better and higher forms of art and keep moving.
That's why I love Maroon 5 so much, man.
Yeah, Maroon 5, they're the best of this by far.
Constantly just pulling from other geniuses.
I as the oldest member of anywhere that I am recently, I mean, this is how I've structured my life. A lot of people my age just stop taking in new influences. They don't listen to new music. They don't. They're just whatever, and they slowly wither away and die in the suburbs, and they just they become.
Hey, don't go. We're not going to sit here and attack the suburbs.
They become comically out of touch. But my thing is I like the energy of young people. I like to suck it like a vampire. I like to increase my own.
You suck a lot, man. You definitely suck.
But I really value other people's ideas and thoughts that don't originate from my brain. My brain can only create the thoughts that it has, and it's important to have other points of view. And the same thing is true of every single thing on this earth. Different play styles, different artistic points of view. It's you get better and better by combining things, getting rid of the bad ideas and keeping the good.
Yeah. That's 100%. And we can move on from Team USA. They're so frustrating to me. And it really is a thing with, I love basketball and I view it like I'm sure musicians view music, where it's like, I just want to learn the game more and more. And as new people come in, like Jokic opened my mind to a whole new style of basketball I didn't even conceive of. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like there's a whole offshoot of basketball I've never even envisioned. And it seems like the spirit of Team USA just seems so opposite of that right now, where they're like, you're like, dude, you can't beat a zone with freaking Batum out there. Like Batum and Fournier just completely flummox you right now, and it's so frustrating. But we have to move on. Luka and I'm sorry, not Luka, Vlatko headlined the Argentinian Slovenian game with his 13 points or something. Luka chipped in a little bit, had 41. That was a really interesting. I know we have a lot of people from Argentina watching. Argentina, I thought maybe they would turn it on. Like they weren't so impressive in the friendlies as well. I didn't realize how shorthanded they were. It's fun to watch Scola play, but I was a little underwhelmed. But mostly the story was,
I mean, Luis Scola is like 60.
I know. I know. He's
you know
awesome.
what though? You know what he is though? Silver Fox. That guy is aged so well.
I think yeah. I was going to go off a weird tangent there, nail form corner, but he looks great. He looks good.
But who looks even better? I guess we should mention Vlatko real quick. Vlatko looked. I thought great. I love Vlatko, the way we've talked about it, just the way he knows where to be. I think he might. I didn't see a plus minus, but I would guess my eye test tells me he had the highest plus minus on the team. Like he just knows how to like support Luka and be where he's supposed to be. But the biggest thing, he had a couple ISOs. Like there's a few times where Luka's like, I'm taking this possession off. Get it to Vlatko. He looks around. He's like, what, me? Crossover, shimmy shake to the basket. I was like,
in that bag.
Yeah, he had a couple left-handed finishes that are definitely like right in the middle of his career highlight film. Like two of the best plays I've ever seen Vlatko make, he made last night. Going to his left, beautiful lefty finishes. He took a charge. He had a steal right after that. Yeah. It's a great sequence.
It's so fun to watch him in a role that's more than break glass in case of emergency. You know, it's really so fun. And look, Slovenia might match up with Team USA, and as great as Luka was, like if there's one game Team USA is not going to blame the coach and just like really buckle down and be intense about, it's going to be Slovenia. Yeah. They're going to at least attempt to go full dream team against Kukoc in that game.
Yeah.
For sure. So that one will be interesting to see, and maybe Vlatko has to step up. But I was just so impressed with Slovenia and Luka, by the way, man.
Whew.
I can't believe how good this guy is. I know it was an international game, but KD just dropped 10 points in an international game. That's terrible. Luka, the only reason he dropped 41 is because he didn't want to drop anymore. Like he just like, I'm done. This is too easy.
My work here is done.
That was honestly the easiest, most dominant performance I don't know. I might have ever watched at any level. I know it's not NBA Finals. I know it's a lower level. Doesn't matter. Luka made that look so easy.
Yeah, Luka looked like he was like playing with a bunch of like high schoolers, and he was a pro. Like that's what it looked like.
He gives that shit-eating grin when he makes a play. He did it every time. Like he would just do something and then look at the camera and be like, guys, pretty cool.
Like I never watched Wilt Chamberlain, but I assume that's what Wilt Chamberlain looked like when he played in the NBA.
I remember this game, by the way. This was against Nigeria. Carmelo was absolutely out. Yeah. But see, the thing about Carmelo in that game, as great as he was just on fire. Like a lot of that was just he kept pulling up from three in transition, and Team USA over. That's one of my favorite games I ever watched. Is his 50-point ass whooping. But Carmelo was on fire. This Luka was. It's not that I'm not trying to say more or less impressive, but it was just that he did everything. He wants to go to the rim, just walks right to the rim, fakes a guy, shoots step back three. Everything he did was like so effortless.
And he's also priority 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the other side for the defensive game plan. So he is ridiculous. He is ridiculous.
It was really impressive. Facu also, I thought, he had a nice game. Like Facu's not. I like Facu. He's not good enough to go toe to toe with Luka Doncic. Like it just. Yeah. Slovenia was the better team, and Facu had a nice step back. He had like a couple really nice plays. Had a nice three, step back three. He had some really nice plays, but it was a drop in a bucket. Is it a
a drop in a bucket.
Yeah. It was just like that's an awesome step back three. You just cut it to 23. cut the lead to 23. It just had no impact.
Hearing the sentence that followed what you were trying to, that was the correct thing to say. It was a drop in a bucket.
Nailed it, you guys. Nailed it. I know all of my sayings. All right, let's hit another break. I got super producer Kayla screaming at me to hit a break. I assume screaming. It's all caps.
We're well.
It would be amazing if he was just like,
somehow we have like 12 minutes to get through the top players of this draft. Quickly, Harrison, how quickly can you do your ad break?
Oh, man. All right, let's see.
Not a good start.
We're sponsored by Ball across the entire DNVR network, as in Ball Arena. Also, is in that aerospace technology company that's leading global sustainability efforts. They've been doing so for decades. By 2030, Ball aims to reduce operational carbon emissions by 55% across their value chain, by 60% from 2017 levels. If you want to work at Ball right here in Golden, Colorado, they're looking for the smartest of people to work at their Golden plant. You can text Golden to 77222, or you can go to jobs.ball.com and search for Golden if you want more info and you want to work at Ball. Jobs.ball.com and search for Golden, or you can simply text Golden to 77222. Also, DNVR listeners can get this awesome offer from Manscaped right now. You can get 20% off plus free shipping with the code DNVR at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code DNVR at manscaped.com. Pick up that Lawnmower 4.0, absolutely essential for the summer. It's got a 7,000 RPM motor. It's got a 4,000K LED spotlight. It's got different blade lengths, sizes 1 through 4. When you get the package that the Lawnmower 4.0 comes in, you also get the travel bag, $39 value travel bag. So go to manscaped.com, get 20% off with the code DNVR. Also, at DraftKings right now, they're running an awesome promo for the Olympics. Place any pre-event wager of $1 to be eligible to cash $100 in free credits if America wins any medal this year.
It's already happened.
That's 100 to 1 odds on any American athlete to stand on the podium, receive the gold, silver, or bronze this week. Again, download DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code DNVR when you set up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits if America wins a medal. That's code DNVR. Turn $1 into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
Shouts to Milan, by the way, who gave us a winner last week. You guys remember? He said, Argentina's 5.5 points underdogs. He goes, take Slovenia. They're going to 15 or more. And he was right. It was like 30. So
no. You want to hear about a bad beat that I had last night?
Yes.
Let's hear it.
So on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, you can do the alternate line thing. And I took the maximum of what it was for Slovenia. So I had Slovenia minus 19.5.
Oh, no. Was it 19?
It was 18.
But
they were up by 20 plus the whole game, man.
Yeah,
the whole game.
19, though, it's like, come on, man.
I have Slovenia to win Group C at plus 340. It was a boost, or maybe plus 240. And then I also have Australia to win a medal. Any medal. Those
Australia will win a medal. Australia's solid.
I know. That's why I bet those two things.
Dude, I'm telling you, Team USA is going to get matched up with like one in the first round. They're going to end up with a Spain or Slovenia, or they're going to end up with one of these good teams in the first round. And either USA is going to get eliminated right away, or they're going to upset a team that deserves to have a good run. Just the way it's going to work out. We got to keep it moving, though, guys, because we only have like 10 minutes here to get through this. And I want to talk about the top of the draft. Coming the rest of the week, like I said, on DNVR, we're going to talk more about the Nuggets. These guys aren't possible for the Nuggets, but it's always good to talk about the draft, the guys that will define this year's draft at the top. And we're going to talk about Cade Cunningham first. I looked at Cade Cunningham a year ago because draft Twitter was all about Cade Cunningham in high school. Oh, he's incredible. And I'm like, all right, I take a look at him. I'm like, I like the guy. I think he's good. I don't know if he's up here good, but I think he's pretty solid. When I started over the weekend looking at some of the Cade Cunningham film, my God, dude's a beast. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid on Cade Cunningham. He's built like Aaron Gordon, almost exactly the same measurables, weight, height. He's pretty strong. Not as athletic as Aaron Gordon, but just body type. Like he's about the same size. And he plays, I think, very similar style to Luka. I mean, I'm not trying to compare him to Luka. He's not Luka, but just the way he controls, he's super high basketball IQ. great playmaker. He's better defensively than Luka is. And the question mark coming into this year was, can he shoot? Shot great this year. Looks incredible as a shooter. Looks like a Luka Doncic-esque shooter in that it's not his main thing, but he's good enough at it that you have to guard him, panic if he's open. So are you guys as impressed with Cade Cunningham as I am?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Like you, I've been hearing about Cade Cunningham forever. I've been hearing about Cade Cunningham. He's going to be the number one pick in this draft. I feel like I've heard that for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the last guy I heard about that early. I don't even think I heard about Luka Doncic that early, But Cade has been the guy forever, and I'm with you. I'm totally on board. I saw the report from Woj before we came on that's the Detroit Pistons are still thinking about the number one pick. Are they going to take Jalen Green? Are they going to take Evan Mobley? I don't believe that because they'd be fools to pass up on Cade Cunningham. They'd be pulling a Vlade Divac if they passed up on Cade Cunningham. So he's an absolute no-brainer number one pick.
Yeah, and the Luka comp, as far as just the let yourself be silly, outrageous, for a top prospect, it actually makes a lot of sense because while maybe you could say, all right, Cade's not the most explosive, impressive athlete that we've seen at the number one spot in a draft. It doesn't really matter because he moves at his own pace and he sees the game so well. And it's like Luka in that, okay, maybe I don't move different, but I think different and my touch is different, and that still equals unstoppable. I also laugh because the only thing we have in the cons is lateral quickness. And all we're really saying there is that he's just massive for a guard. And can he guard smaller guards who also can't guard him on the other end? The off-ball stuff, even though the 1v1 and the passing are the bread and butter, off-ball he's capable as well. Really smart player, really good shooter, both on and off the dribble. Just seems like a can't-miss guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I watched Phil and him also. I've never seen him play, which I don't. The thing about the draft, it's difficult for me to not being a college guy at all. I'm always seeing these clips of the things they do really well, the things that they don't do well. But it's I always like to see it in context. I hate forming an opinion on somebody and then being upset that they didn't get drafted where I thought, but not having the full picture. But everything I saw, I'm oh man, this guy does literally everything. I really don't understand what would be I agree with you. There's no way that Detroit is really double thinking this. This is just what everybody does around draft time. This has to be the number one pick, this guy.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's two guys I like. We're going to talk about the next one here in just a second. But the one thing I'll say about Cade is I do think his upside is MVP. They're not every year you look at a guy and say, I think they're up. Anthony Edwards is an interesting one to me. Do I think he could be the MVP? Yes. If you told me bet on it, I'd be oh, almost certain. I feel very comfortable betting against him being the MVP. I think he's a great player. I just don't know if he's going to be the MVP. There's not that many MVPs over the course of 20 years. There's maybe 10 of them. So I don't know. But I think with Cade Cunningham, I feel confident saying he has a great chance of being an MVP, a la a Zion, who I would be surprised if he wasn't. You keep going back even further. Anthony Davis had that kind of talent where you'd say, okay, I could see him being an MVP. But most years you got first round draft picks. Anthony Bennett, you knew he wasn't. Wiggins would have been a real long shot. Kyrie Irving, real long shot. Even John Wall, real long shot. It's not every year that a number one pick has that kind of upside. I think Cade Cunningham, to me, I'm yeah, that guy is floor, top of max contract, in my opinion. Ceiling MVP of the league. He's that dynamic of a player. But the other guy that I feel this way about, and it's less so, but I still feel that way, is Evan Mobley. To me, he's the clear second guy. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were at least some people out there who feel that he's the number one guy. And Evan Mobley, you can bring that up. First of all, part of this is tainted by the fact that I watched him. The only game, full game I've watched of his was against CU, where he absolutely dominated.
It was incredible.
So when you talk about bigs in today's NBA, they've got to both protect the rim but also be able to switch. Well, that's him. He moves his feet so well out on the perimeter that he really is an exterior and interior defender, projects to be that. He's got good touch, not you're going to space him out to three, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was an extremely reliable pick and pop player before long. And then as well as good touch around the rim on just putbacks or floaters or whatever it is. And then he looks like he might have good enough passing to be able to be a Bam Adebayo type where he can run handoffs and stuff like that. He's not a gifted passer like a Jokic, but I think he's a capable passer that you could use as the hub in your offense. So I'm surprised. Cade Cunningham's really good, but I think Mobley gets talked about less than he deserves.
Don't you think this is just a positional thing, like a positional philosophy in the state of the NBA? I mean, for as much versatility as Mobley has defensively, if you can get a dominant, two-way guard in 2021, isn't that just a priority for everyone? But I get that. That said, finding a big like Mobley, I get there's arguably a premium on that because it's just so hard to do. But from that perspective, man, I'm not surprised that Cunningham is getting this nod.
Yeah, Mobley is a 7-footer who can also be a guy who doesn't get played off the floor.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And if you're going to spend a top 5 pick on a 7-footer, like he absolutely has to be able to defend on the perimeter. Like that should be like the one thing he has to do if you're going to spend a top 5 pick on him, because like if you're going to take that guy and he just can't play in the playoffs, like, or in certain situations, what's the point of taking him that high? But Mobley definitely can. I mean, Mobley is definitely like the unicorn type of center, even though I hate that term. But I mean, he just is, man. He runs like a deer. He's going to be able to shoot it, I think. He's got good touch, got good feel for the game, and he can defend on the perimeter. So, I mean, what's not to like about him?
I think his, not floor, but his like 25th percentile outcome is probably somewhere close to a Bam Adebayo. Maybe that's a little hot takey, but he has skill sets that I'm like, he'll be a good defensive player. I just think I would be shocked if he's not an impact. And then as you mentioned,
he could be Bam Adebayo, but he's 7 feet.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Bam's like 6'9".
But that's 25th percentile, meaning like, okay, he didn't quite reach his potential, but he's still a guy that is a very good defender that can probably guard most of your good players. Now, he's a little skinny. Like Embiid and Jokic are probably going to beat him up a little bit, but he might be able to with his shot and his mobility and this or that, make those guys work on the other end. So I'm just really high on Mobley. I think somebody's going to wind up with him and be very, very happy. I heard somebody, it was Chad Ford today who said he's Chris Bosh on offense and Anthony Davis on defense. And I thought, like, all right, that's pretty darn good.
I saw a follow-up tweet that was like, he's the greatest offensive and defensive player. I have him number 3 on my big board.
Well, the biggest worry about Mobley is going to go to the Cavs. Like that's tough. Like that is going to be a huge piece of adversity he's going to have to overcome very early in his career.
It's true.
He does going to the Cavs.
He does look really skinny to me. Like it looks like he might be able to be moved off of his spot a little bit. Like, but I also think that a lot of guys come in. I'm just remembering that before and after shot of Giannis Antetokounmpo that we looked at of just him coming in like seemingly scrawny. That's what I mean. Like that he'll turn into an absolute monster. Who I saw in him just a little bit when I was watching him. I was like, does this dude look like Danny Manning a little bit? Like,
he's Danny Manning was good, but been an even better player. He was the number 1 overall pick and was damned to go to the Clippers, which is kind of like what you're talking about. Now Cleveland is that same scenario. Like, but just a really big guy, can actually shoot, can move his feet. Comping big men in 2021 to big men from 1990 is always so hilarious to me. Like, you're like, I don't know. Danny Manning was really good. Would he be good today? No idea. It's hard to say. Yeah.
Just physically, like he just kind of looked like him. I don't know.
Yeah. Mobley seems like a better prospect than Ayton, though. At least from what I remember, DeAndre Ayton was like around the draft.
We gotta cut this short, guys. I want to talk about one more name. Sorry, I got to throw out Suggs. Even though he's interesting, we'll talk about him during the draft show on Thursday. But he's an interesting player.
Help Suggs.
But the only other guy that to me is like super intriguing, I would bet against him, but at least I can acknowledge that I think his ceiling is like really, really interesting, is Jalen Green.
Yeah.
He's a guy that has like star personality, star footwork. Like I always look at footwork and think that's a hard thing to perfect. The thinking the game and seeing the court, that comes sometimes with experience, but some guys just move, like their body control is so great. He has great body control, super athlete, and already a very good one-on-one scorer. I imagine he's one of those dudes that like in King of the Court, you put all these young players together, like he probably absolutely murders at it. So what do we think of Jalen Green, Vogt?
Well, I actually just wanted to address one of the cons, which is defense. And I think there's some off-ball defensive upside too. I mean, you might look at this guy as like, I mean, the first thing you see is his around the rim package, right? The layup, the dunks, like he's incredible. And often those guys are very strictly one-way type of players. And as a point regarding Green, but also just the top of this draft, a lot like it's much better defensive players or two-way guys, I think, than some of the top picks we've seen come through the pipeline late. With Green, I think the concern is he a one-on-one on-ball type of player specifically or exclusively, I should say. The playmaking, the consistency, the feel of the game stuff, it's not up there with some of the other top prospects in this year's draft. That said, boy, does he just move different, right? He is a different type of athlete. And there's
fluid, man. So smooth.
There's something special there. Yeah.
Harrison?
Yeah, I mean, he's a top 1% athlete, and like you just watch him and you go, okay, that guy's got it. Like that guy's got the full NBA offensive package.
Oh yeah,
like, he's gonna average 25 points a game. Now, like, will that lead to winning? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see with Jalen Green, but he'll be able to score a ton. He'll be able to put the ball in the bucket. I mean, how people are talking about him kind of reminds me of how people were talking about Anthony Edwards last year a little bit. And then Anthony Edwards got to Minnesota and he was just good. He was just good, had this great personality, just got buckets. So I think Jalen Green's gonna be really good. I'd probably take
going to be in Houston. Houston will be an interesting one because it's kind of the new Houston. Are they the Cavs? Are they the Clip? Are they going to ruin
They're
it?
Definitely the Cavs. They're definitely the Cavs.
He could definitely be a guy that doesn't get it, doesn't develop the way you think. But I know this is crazy. Again, this is the draft. We comped their highest upside, not necessarily their realistic thing. But to me, he kind of reminds me of Kobe. Just Kobe, even at his height, was like great player, but still shot too much. You'll be like, okay, whatever. That's kind of how Jalen Green is, where I watch him. I'm like, he is so confident in himself that he's taking this like ridiculous shots that he makes look good, even though we know a fadeaway 18-footer is not actually a good shot, but he's good enough to take it. He probably shouldn't take it as much as he does.
Jalen Green in the G League as a 19-year-old, like, had a good year.
Right.
Like 18 points per game on good percentages in the G League.
Yeah.
Like as a 19-year-old. That's wild.
Zach LaVine, a great comp. I mean, physically, he's Zach LaVine, and his game looks a lot like it. That's probably more realistic than Kobe. But
I know. I was going to say,
when they're young, you comp the upside. You comp the
I'm like, man, you're at Kobe. I was like, this guy kind of reminds me of Prime Thrill. Like, he looks like the best version of Will Barton. Like,
well, we just went Doncic and then Chris Bosh AD hybrid. So I guess it's only fair.
I'm not saying any of these guys are going to be that high. It's just that you comp them to say, like, what's the mold? Can they be there? And that's what it is. So we got to run, guys. This was a great show. We didn't even get to any of the mailbag. We'll push that to tomorrow. Mailbag Tuesday, cool. Mailbag Monday, Hangover Edition. We'll do it tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.